I'm good, Jason. I don't hear you right now, but I am good.
All right,
Yeah,
terrific.
there
I'm
we go.
Jason Barr, joined by Pat Paris, and this is the Huddle, King of Nine's weekly sports streaming talk show. And I hit the unmute button, but I didn't hit it hard enough, and so that's why I was still muted. We're not off to a good start, Pat. We're not off to a good start. Only gonna
Kind of
get
like
better
this
from
week
there.
with 105 degrees each day. Not off to a good start.
The heat is getting to me. For those of you who don't know, we're in Tucson. It has never hit 105 degrees in Tucson in October. That is the forecast for today. I don't know if it's hit it quite yet. But this is also the 100th day of 100 degrees or more, I believe, in Tucson. Back in the day, Phoenix would get 90 days of 100-degree heat, and Tucson would get 60 days of 100-degree heat. Okay? I don't need to tell you why that's changed. There's a 105. There we go.
Weather Service says it hit 105. So new all-time October record high. It's first day of October, but an all-time record high.
And the latest date of ever 105 degrees. So,
and in 2020, when we hit 108 days of over 100 degrees, I thought, we're not going to see that for a while.
Yeah, I think
we're only 8 days away now.
That's right. It's a week from Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, it's only supposed to be in the mid-90s.
Okay.
The thing is this. You expect it in June and you're okay with it?
Yeah. No, that's it.
This time of year, you're just done with it.
Once we get to football, get into the heart of the football season. Now we're almost 5 weeks into the football season, right? And we're still looking triple digits. That's a little much.
And we're lucky enough to be in air conditioning here today. So anyway, our Huddle poll question is the big topic everybody's talking about. Of course, with the passing of Pete Rose, should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? Now, here we have his stats on the field, but that's not really the issue, right? The most hits in Major League history, most games played, 17-time All-Star, MVP, Rookie of the Year, World Series MVP, right? On the field, there's no question. It's whether or not what he did off the field, meaning gambling and then lying about it, should disqualify him. So if you go to kgun9.com and go to the poll question, you can vote. There's three options: yes, no, or it's too late. And we're gonna have some results later in the show. Pat, do you want to chime in? Or are you afraid not to influence anybody?
I'll chime in. I always thought that there was room for him in Cooperstown. I still wish he was in Cooperstown. You can ban him from baseball for life, which they did. He could never take part. He could never. But Cooperstown's a separate entity, right? Cooperstown's its own thing. Major League Baseball never told Cooperstown, the people that run the Hall of Fame there, they never said you can't put Pete Rose in. The Hall of Fame there just decided that they would honor the lifetime ban and not put him in the Hall of Fame. I voted. I actually went back and forth and finally figured I went with C, Jason, which is it's too late. And I think it is too late. It's kind of like...
That's what he said before he passed.
Right. He had said that. I know Dan Patrick has interviewed him many times, and that's what Dan Patrick has been saying as well. And I kind of feel that way too. If you want to put him in, put him in. I just think it's too late. I think that he finally wrote a book. I know he wrote a book to make a little money. He finally admitted what he did. It was just a little too late for that, unfortunately. And now I just don't know what you accomplished by putting him in the Hall of Fame once he's passed away. I think he deserved to be in there as a player, and I think you could easily separate that out. Major League Baseball says he's banned from ever taking part in anything to do with Major League Baseball, but that's separate from Cooperstown. They should have already put him in. That's my take.
My answer is yes, he should be in. There should be an asterisk. There should be a separate wing in the Hall of Fame for the players in the steroid era: Mark McGwire, Roger Clemens, Bonds, and some of the others. They should be in too, with a separate wing and an asterisk. And Pete Rose, it should be on his plaque at the bottom of what happened. So otherwise, I think you're just kind of playing God and denying the fans of what they want to see. So my vote is yes, and I think that's going to be the overwhelming vote. We'll see.
Well, I think it will be too. I'm just kind of thinking it's too late, but I think we're in agreement on one thing, and that is there's a way that you can still tell the story of baseball, because that's what Cooperstown is. It's the history of baseball, and it's really hard to not have the Bonses and the McGuires and the Pete Roses, just excluded from that. And so there's got to be a way that they can do it. Maybe his passing will have them kind of rethink how they're going to handle that situation and those players. And as you said, maybe there's a special wing. You don't even have to have speeches and just have a day where you say we're opening a new wing, and here they are. Here are the greats that are never going to be elected, likely are never going to be elected to the Hall of Fame, but here's their special wing as we tell the great history of the great game.
There's plenty of unsavory characters in baseball, and my biggest issue with the Hall of Fame isn't the players with a steroid issue or Pete Rose. I think what's tarnished the Hall of Fame is nothing against these people as teammates and good guys and all that, but some of the players who have been elected recently to me are Hall of Very Good, and we know who they are. Harold Baines at the top, and there's plenty of other ones too. These guys are not Hall of Fame players, okay? And you know what? Here you got a guy in Tommy John who's got a surgery named after him, came close to 300 wins, and he's not in.
Yeah.
So my biggest issue with the Hall of Fame is it's almost kind of done by a popularity contest, and guys who are definitely part of the fabric of baseball, like a Tommy John isn't in, but guys like Harold Baines, I know I'm picking on him a little bit, are in. All right, so we'll go back to this. I want to get to what a big win, Pat, for U of A football, and apparently a fire was lit under this coaching staff by themselves going into this game because they did not look good the first 3 games, and boy did that change at number 10 Utah. Noah Fafita, those numbers aren't great, but the big throws at the end are what matters.
Fourth quarter throws were amazing.
And a breakout game for Keon Burnett. You look at Utah, and they didn't really have that many carries. The rushing yards at the bottom right, it's a little misleading because a lot of those are the quarterback who didn't have good numbers. They didn't have a ton of statistics. Not that wasn't important, but I think the big one was 4th down. I mean,
it was. But what that shows you, though, Jason, this is a team that wants to run the football more than 29 times, and they couldn't do it because Arizona's defense. They just, Arizona was more physical than one of the most physical football teams that we see all year, and that was impressive to me. And we talked about it last week, Jason, and all I said is I thought they needed to reset as a coaching staff and get after these guys and stop being those coaches that say, okay, we're the newcomers, you guys have been running everything, so we'll do it your way, and we'll go through, and it wasn't working. And I think part of that was them just saying, look, enough's enough. We're not playing the way we're supposed to be playing. We need to come together, and we're going to do it our way as our coaching staff, and we're going to push you guys to be better at certain areas as a coaching staff. And I think it all worked. Certainly, having that week off came at a good time. And I said before the season started, if they're 3-1 after these first 4 games, I'll be happy. I'm not happy the way they played at Kansas State, but I'm happy that they're 3-1. I think they're in a great position now.
Makes you wonder why Isaac Johnson wasn't in there from the beginning at nose tackle. I mean, he's a legitimate, 300-pound guy who was making a difference there on the line. Tacario Davis with the 4th down in the end zone, the pass breakup. He had 5 of them. We see there the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week.
3 of them on 4th down. Yeah, that's huge.
Breakout game for Keon Burnett, who we find out really wasn't healthy the first couple games. That's why, maybe he didn't have the big stats that we thought that he did. A couple of things, though, I did notice, and we texted this, Tedero McMillan is looking tired at the end of games. I brought that up in the news conference yesterday. All 6 of his catches were in the first half. He looks gassed. He looks gassed late in games. There's no question about it. And, we're told his conditioning is in great shape. They said they're asking him to do a lot, moving him all up and down the field, blocking, all that. But they gotta find a way to get McMillan to also contribute, on 4th down in the 4th quarter as well.
Yeah, and part of that is managing him throughout the game as far as his reps. Not even star receivers take time, have to sit out plays at a time, and I think they're going to watch that. As you know, Jason, as the season progresses, your conditioning gets a little bit better as long as you're healthy. And this is a guy that didn't have much training camp at all because
that has to be part of it, right?
Yeah, yeah. So they've worked him back slowly, and now he's up to thank goodness that one timeout came when it did, so he could get back out there, because just his mere presence out there changes what a defense is going to do. And it allows guys like Keon Burnett to be open because they put so much emphasis on stopping Tedero McMillan. They've had to put a lot of emphasis on starting to stop the run game now because I know it's still a little hit or miss. It's misfiring a couple of times, but there've been some big gashes by that run game for the Wildcats against Utah, especially, and that keeps the defense honest and allows other guys to contribute. So many guys contributed to that win on Saturday.
A couple interesting strategy moves, and I have no problem with a coach going against analytics if he feels something and he's there. These games have a heartbeat to them, and I'm fine with a couple of moves that Brennan made. A touchdown was scored to make it 22-20 Arizona, and in the fourth quarter, you think they would go for two, so they would be up by two touchdowns just in case Utah came back. But Brennan, I thought, give him credit. I thought he made an interesting point yesterday. He said, "You know what? We had the momentum. These momentum swings can be hard. It was really loud, and you could tell watching the TV. It was really loud and rocking in there. We know loop is an automatic extra point. We just wanted to keep the pressure on them." I kind of like that. The only thing though is then when it's 23-10, do you kick a field goal, a 50-something late, or do you just pooch punt it? If you're just looking to keep the momentum, I would have pooch punted it deep inside the 20-yard line, though, just to be consistent with that. So I have no problem with him going for the extra point. Just be consistent the next time and pooch punt it and keep the momentum that way.
Well, I'll say this. I at the time, I thought about going for two as well, but he's right in a lot of ways. How often do you see a team go for two to just try to get that, that 14-point or whatever lead to keep it, on schedule there, and then they don't get the 2-point conversion, and it's really deflating sometimes to a team. And if you've got that atmosphere that they have at Utah, I can see why you go for the sure bet. You go for the one. I'm okay with that. I still think when you got Tyler Loop, you think anything inside 60 is, I won't say automatic, but
you're talking about the strength of his leg. He's not 100% accurate kicker. He missed a chip shot earlier this season.
Yep.
Don't confuse his leg strength with perfect accuracy.
No, although he's very accurate, Jason, but he does miss. Nobody's perfect. He does miss, and you take that risk. But I think you also factor in how well your defense is playing. And at that point, when they were going for the field goal, they had Isaac Wilson, the quarterback. They had Isaac Wilson really flustered. They had him right where they wanted him defensively. And I think they thought the knockout blow is a field goal. If we don't get the knockout blow, we'll just come out and play defense again. And hey, they rolled the dice. It all worked out in the end. I guess that's the bottom line.
Yeah, I said Isaac Johnson earlier. I meant Isaiah Johnson, the defensive tackle for Arizona. When I said Isaac, I meant Isaiah Johnson, and there he is right there.
Yep.
They'd been Chuba May had been in there. You look the way Johnson played, and you wonder why he wasn't there from the beginning. Arizona did get a little lucky though with Cam Rising not playing. I wonder. They said in the post game he was very close to playing. I wonder if this was a playoff at the end of playoff game at the end of the season, I think Cam Rising would have played. And if that's the case and he didn't play because it was Arizona, and then on the first drive, Utah goes for it on fourth down. It wasn't 4th and goal from the 1. It was 4th and 2 from about the 12. That's very different because even if you still get the 2 yards, which is not easy, well, you haven't accomplished a touchdown. You still got to get another tough first down. Yeah. Then going for it on 4th down on that first drive, Utah did, combined with the fact that they started their backup quarterback, told me early on that I don't think Utah had a ton of respect for Arizona going into this game.
Well, and you texted me that, and I think, you could very well be right. I think they thought they were the 10th ranked team in the country and Arizona was struggling and that they could impose their will. I do think that their game plan coming in, and they talked about this on the broadcast, that Utah thought that they were the one area that they were not doing well on coming into that game Saturday night was finishing drives, and they weren't going to settle for field goals this time. That was their mantra all week, was we're going to finish drives and we're going to score touchdowns. So I think that was their big moment to flex the muscle and say, we're going for the end zone here. We're not going to settle. And fortunately, they didn't. They did that, and U of A took advantage, made the stop. and all of a sudden now Utah is like punched in the mouth a little bit, and they knew they were in for a football game. And Arizona, to their credit, just kept knocking them in the mouth, and eventually, the big bully succumb. And I think the Utah strategy was what they thought was right at the time. I think we can say what Arizona game plan for was right as well, and Arizona just kind of, in the end, had everything pretty much go their way, and they deserved that win, and they looked like a team that was a better team on that night.
So there was another big change for Arizona football, and boy, the program is putting one heck of a spin on it right now, and that is Dino Babers, the offensive coordinator, who called the plays the first 3 games, and apparently didn't call plays when he was head coach of Syracuse, is my understanding. So he hadn't called plays in a long time. He did not call the plays in this game. Matt Atkins, the passing game coordinator and tight ends coach, was elevated to the play calling. Now, what the program is saying is this was the plan all along. We decided the bye week was the time to do it. We wanted Babers here to, groom the young coaching staff. He's totally fine with it. This was partly his idea. The whole thing to smooth it over. How true that is, you never know. But that's the classy, guy that Brent Brennan is. But I don't know that I noticed that big a change in the play calling. There was one end around. I didn't really see like a ton of creativity that I was kind of hoping to see. I mean, if you didn't know, would you have noticed a change in the play calling?
Well, no, I noticed right away when they were quick hitters to T-Mac early on, that they clearly came out of that bye week thinking we got to get our big guy the ball more. And then the plays to the tight end, throwing the ball to the tight ends, especially Kean Burnett, that was a noticeable difference. Now, as you pointed out,
the amount that Speedy Luke played was definitely different.
Yes, that was different. So they may have just installed that during the bye week and decided to go with that play. I thought there was more of an emphasis for a vertical passing game than we saw, especially in that NAU game and then the loss at Kansas State, where they were just way out of sync. I think maybe if anything, maybe they scripted things more. Maybe the guys knew what plays were coming more, and they definitely executed better. So whether it's play calling or just execution of the plays being called, probably a combination of both. They just looked more sharp. I mean, there's no question. They were a sharper football team offensively, and that's why we saw the point production that we saw.
Yeah, so Arizona now 3-1. They're actually 1-0 in the Big 12 because that Kansas State game
That's right.
was considered
and still have a chance to make the playoffs, even with the one loss. Because if you go to that Big 12 title game, you stay undefeated. I don't know that they will, but if you stay undefeated, you get to that Big 12 title game, you get the automatic bid, and I'm guessing that the second team probably is going to make it as well.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the message today with Dino Babers and the offensive team's press conference was, okay, now let's see how good we can be, and let's see if we can really ride something special here, and maybe
get on a roll like they did last year.
Yeah, there's an aberration.
Yeah,
I mean, when you think about it, they've won 10 of 11 games, right? So we're not going to win every single game. Even Alabama doesn't win every game. So for them to lose on a tough Kansas State road thing and to split those 2 games,
right?
That's pretty impressive. Dorian Singer was highly motivated.
There's no question. Yeah.
The Utah receiver who had played with Arizona a couple years ago had a falling out. Not sure how much the falling out was with Jaden Delora, the quarterback at the time, or Jed Fish. Went to USC, didn't do much. Now with Utah, maybe we'll have a similar situation in Arizona's favor in a few weeks when Montana Lamonius Craig goes up against Colorado. I'm not type of sure what interaction he had with Deion Sanders, and when he left and hit the transfer portal when Deion took over.
He took over, right.
There's an interesting story there for sure.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Wildcats come out for an encore performance against Texas Tech after we clearly saw the best U of A we've seen since last year back on Saturday night at Utah. Can they come out and kind of match that physicality on defense? Can they match that cohesiveness and that tempo and timing on offense and get a win there? Because, boy, staring you in the face, in a week after that is BYU, and guess what? BYU has a bye this week, so we know how good things can go for you when you have a bye and you game plan and get ready. And that is going to be a tough game to go up to Utah to go to play BYU.
It's going to be an afternoon game, and there's another little storyline there, Pat. I don't know if you know, but BYU, of all schools, has a Jewish quarterback, and he is planning to play on Yom Kippur. And so it's an interesting story. And
it's a tough decision, I'm sure, right? I would think.
It is. He's not overly religious, but that's one of the storylines for the BYU game. It was announced yesterday. It's going to be an afternoon game on that Saturday. But let's get through Texas Tech.
Yeah, get past Texas Tech first, right?
Next week. All right, so let's finish things up here by going back to our Huddle poll question with Pete Rose. Should he be in the Hall of Fame? I'm thinking A1 has a very high. Yeah, I would have guessed even higher than 70%, just to, with all the fans saying. But I can see that. I would have guessed higher on the yes, and a little lower on the it's too late for that now.
So you add those two together, and that's probably 83%.
Well, there you go.
Because my it's too late for that now
would have been a yes.
If you would have been a yes, it's always been a yes for me.
So in a way, it's like 83-17.
It could be. If you're a no, you're a no, right? But if you're it's too late for that now, I still think most of those would probably be a yes.
Do you think he ever gets in?
I think that I like your idea better. I think he probably finds a way to be remembered in Cooperstown without being enshrined in Cooperstown. How about that? We need to remember these guys. Let's remember these guys, honor these guys. We're not going to enshrine these guys.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
Played 1 year with the Montreal Expos, and certainly it was on the 1980 Phillies team, and then went back and finished his career with the Reds as a player manager. I'd love to see that again, a player manager.
That's
I don't know
which sport.
Right? Which sport could they bring that back in, and how could that be done?
I gotta believe that baseball is one of the only ones that you can do that, right?
LeBron James couldn't be player coach like the final year.
Well, he probably is already, but he doesn't.
What about the final year of his career? Could he be player coach?
I don't know. You've got to. The thing is, you think about sports like basketball and hockey. Let's say that coach has to be on the sideline getting the next sub, getting ready to make subs, or in the case of hockey, you're constantly making shift changes. But in basketball, you're like, all right, you may not see what, let's say LeBron's the player coach. He may not see some of the things that are going on that you might want to sub out a guy,
No, but if that's the case, you're going to have an assistant coach who's a little bit more than is more like an associate head coach, who's like a bench coach in baseball. I could see him being. I'm trying to think where else that could be in. I mean, obviously that can't be the case in football. Hockey, baseball. Could it be in hockey? I mean,
that's tough.
I mean, maybe it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
I think baseball is the one.
I think that's the closest thing would be LeBron in.
Yeah.
LeBron in.
It'd be a special circumstance like that.
I mean, there could have been. I mean, just think about Joe Girardi could have been like his final year playing baseball. If he had a bench coach who was like a quasi manager, I think a guy like Joe Girardi could have been a player coach.
But it's always, you notice we're always coming up with guys at the end of their careers, especially in baseball, where they may take some days off, so it's fine to be a manager as well. Right. If you're the prime, you're not going to ask Shohei Ohtani to be the manager at the same time he's out there.
I don't know. I think he could do it.
Yeah, but when he's back to pitching again and hitting and being the manager, it's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. So
how does he replace himself on the mound too? You give yourself the ball, and then give it to the. And then you give yourself the ball, and then you give it to the reliever. I don't know.
There were a few others. Pete Rose is the only one I can think of right now, but there were a couple of others as well. It's It's kind of like the barefoot kicker in the NFL. They've just kind of gone away.
Yeah, weather had a lot to do with that.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we finished that up at around 70% or so for yes. So that makes sense, and We'll talk about the Arizona-Texas Tech game next week. I think you'll be off next week.
I'll be off next week, but Ryan Fish will be in for me. Yeah,
Ryan, we'll talk about that next week. All right, terrific. For Pat, I'm Jason. It's been the Huddle, KGUT9's weekly streaming sports talk show. I'll see you right back here same time next week.